Alright, so I don't know if I'd really planned to carry on in this sort of comparison series of videos, but I think that I've kind of come to the conclusion, even just myself over the last few days, that I don't think that you can disentangle Epiphones from, their Gibson counterpart. I don't think you can. And I think they will forever be compared simply because Gibson intends it that way. Gibson intends for people who desire the one near the trash can there and can't afford it to come and choose this somehow lesser version. And it is a lesser version. How much of a lesser version is up for debate. I mean, there's heaps of guys who will talk to you ad nauseum about how Epiphones are just as good as the real thing or close enough. But the reality is, I think that most of us operate based largely on emotion. And I think I can say that because as guitar players, we're probably similar in our creative brained, tendencies, which means we're probably more emotional. And I think the psychology of these decisions we make is interesting, right? I mean, Gibson is playing a psychological game with us in terms of people who can't afford the really expensive one. They're playing a bit of a psychological game for us. They're selling us a guitar that's nearly as good, but that reminds you day after day after day after day that it's not the real thing, right? That this is not the real one, and that while it's pretty damn close, we want to remind you every single time you look at your guitar that it's not the Gibson. It's not the one everyone wants. It's not the Ferrari, right? And it's a psychological game that we play with ourselves. Because look at it, like fuck, once you get down here, they look identical. And the truth is, if you looked at these purely based on their performance, they're nearly identical. I mean, once you plug them in, I'm fairly certain if we took those awesome pickups and put it in this guitar, they would sound probably nearly identical. And as it is, this one just sounds a bit brighter than that one, right? That's really how these are different. That's to the layman how these are going to sound different. And if you're just beginning out in playing guitar, I would be hard pressed for a person who's just starting out as a guitar player to be able to tell the difference between these two if they didn't know which they were playing. You know what I'm saying? So in reality, in terms of their actual technical performance, they're pretty damn near identical. They really are, and they've designed it that way, right? They're designed to be appealing from an aesthetic point of view, but also from a technically, are they technically capable in the same ways? And yes, they are, absolutely. I mean, look at a guy like, what's his name? I've only just discovered him. Something Clark Jr. He plays Epiphones, right? But he hot rods the hell out of them. He's got some really hot rod P90s in his one. I'm certain he's got a different bridge and different electronics and all the stuff that really counts once you plug it in, right? But yeah, he plays Epiphones. Gary Clark Jr., right? Gary Clark Jr. plays these. Not the 339s. He plays the 335s, I'm pretty certain. But, he's an awesome player. So, technically speaking, are these guitars capable of making the same kind of music? Yes, absolutely. Who are we kidding? But as guitar players, especially guys just sat here at home who aren't making any money doing this, that's who this shit matters to. Us. Nobodies. Dudes sitting at home, that's who this shit matters to. Guys who all wish they were Dave Grohl or some other guy or Jimmy Page. We all wish we were that guy. And I think the psychology behind what Gibson is doing to us by selling us these Epiphones that are just, they're so damn close. But visually they want to remind us, no, you got the cheap one. So psychologically, it's always in the back of your brain. I got the cheap one. Even me, who logically can make an argument for how ludicrous it is to spend 5 times as much on a guitar that, technically speaking, if you removed all of our emotion from it and all of our aesthetic preferences, technically is it capable mechanically of achieving the same thing? And yes, of course they are. Could Jimmy Page have made the same music he made with an Epiphone? Yes, he could have. If you think he couldn't have done, then you're nuts. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is a game. I find this personally interested because I'm personally interested in the human condition. I find these psychological games that manufacturers play with us interesting. And I think that because no one's talking about this, I think it's interesting to begin a discussion about how manufacturers are doing this to us on purpose, and how even somebody like me who knows what's happening to him is still... Right, like I know what's happening to me, but I still want that one, right? I still want that one, not this one, even though I know that these are so close to nearly the same thing that, right? Like if I just want to play and make music and I don't care about any of this nonsense, if my emotion isn't driving me to make this decision, that, you know, like if your emotion wasn't driving you to make this decision one way or the other, that you would choose this guitar 10 out of 10 times, regardless of how much money you had. If you were just making a completely, perfectly logical decision with no emotion involved, you would say, oh, well, I'm going to buy this, because even if I paid a hot rod this, I'm still way ahead. I could hot rod this with the most expensive pickups you could buy. I could go out and buy the most expensive components for every category that I'd want to upgrade this in, and still come out far ahead of this. Still probably be able to do this twice, upgrade this guitar twice to the 9s, and still have change left over from buying that, right? I mean, it just is, right? It just is. So the guys who get a little bit indignant and say, oh, I can make my Epiphone as good as a Gibson. Yes, you can. Sure you can. It's going to cost you a pile of money. You're going to spend double what you paid for your Epiphone to make it do that, right? That's where the cost of this becomes... That's where this becomes unreasonable to do. Because the minute I want to go and buy a set, let's just say I wanted to put those 57 Classics, I think they're 57 Classics in there. Let's say I wanted to put a set of 57 Classics in this guitar. That's $300 if I go and buy them brand new. So $300 in tax, so let's just say $350 by the time I buy these pickups. Well, then I got another problem, because these are Epiphone specific quick connects. So either I have to know what I'm doing and desolder this system, or I have to replace all these electronics at some added extra costs. And what did I pay for this guitar if I bought it brand new? $550 and change. So I'm at more than half of what I paid for this guitar to get it to sound like that. Like if I want those pickups to get this guitar to sound as close to that as I possibly can, I have to pay... You know what I'm saying? Like $350 plus maybe $50 in electronics if you really want to do it properly. and I've only paid $5, so it doesn't make sense economically to do that, right? And they know that, so they price this strategically so that you won't do that, so that you're deterred from doing that. You know what I mean? Which is why I tend to think that guitar shops don't carry a lot of, like, hot rod parts. Like, it's really hard to find a good, wide selection of hot rod parts in guitar shops, and I think there's a reason for that. I think they're intentionally keeping that market at bay, right? Because they want you to just go buy another guitar, is what they want you to do. They don't really want you to hot rod your guitar. They want you to just go buy another one. And that's not what we do around here. We hot rod stuff. So I've been keeping my eyes on the used market for a set of Gibson pickups for this. You can usually pick up a set of used Gibson pickups like of that vein for 150, 200 bucks, just depending on what they're asking, but that's what I'm keeping my eyes out for. So look for an upgrade on this guitar for sure. We're going to upgrade this guitar. I'm not going to leave it as is. No way. So I'll have a few little clever tricks for how we deal with that, which I think will be interesting. But yeah, I just thought I'd put up that last little, this sort of little, hopefully final thought on this. And yeah, away we go. Cheers, everyone.